And urgent work is being done on an Auckland train line after a subsidence issue was found during a routine inspection earlier in the week. This has resulted in a reduced timetable for passengers, with only a single track open on Auckland's Western Line as a precaution. Auckland Transport says it appreciates changes will be frustrating, but are working to minimise disruptions.
I've just shortly before this meeting, I received a short briefing on that there has been an issue found there in terms of the stability on part of the lines. So KiwiRail are doing the obvious and appropriate thing there, which is investigating that fully to make sure that the line can be run safely.
Do you think this is reflective of the state of the network, or is it issues of maintenance? What do you believe is the issue?
Well, yes, it is reflective of decades of deferred maintenance in this sector. So over the last couple of weeks, KiwiRail has announced plans to have a thorough maintenance program right across the Auckland rail network, and some people have expressed concern about that because it will create some disruption. This is exactly the reason we need to do that. Some of the ballast put on Auckland's rail lines was put there in the 1870s and has basically had nothing done to it since then. So what we are doing through our record investment in rail is getting on top of the deferred maintenance of the previous government and others so that these issues don't happen again.
KiwiRail has geotechnical engineers on site today to investigate subsidence on a section of the Western Rail Line near Lynn Station in Auckland. Passenger trains are running at a reduced timetable, and only a single track will be operational as a precaution from today, and there's no time frame for a fix just yet. Passengers heading west towards Swanson will have to transfer at New Lynn. Auckland Transport says it's working closely with KiwiRail to minimise disruption. Earlier, I spoke to KiwiRail's Chief Operating Officer for Capital Projects and Asset Development, David Gordon, and I asked him what they'd discovered.
Our guys found it during a routine inspection, and what they discovered was one of the overhead line poles was slightly off the skew. So that's clearly an indication of something happening below the surface that is wrong. So we dropped the speed immediately down to 25 kilometres per hour and started, saying, well, what's caused this? We now know that it's not sort of a subsidence, which sometimes happens, say if you get a water main bursting below the track, but there has been a slip at a particular retaining wall. So today we're on site with geotechnical specialists to say, well, what is the root cause, and then what is the remedy, and is that something we can fix quickly and then come back and do properly later, or is it something we have to do properly now?
How high is this retaining wall where the slip was?
It's quite a big wall actually. It's sort of popped out and failed in a midsection. Not all the wall has failed. It's a relatively modest failure, which is why it's sort of puzzling us a little as to why the impact was quite so great.
And what's the soil or the substrate like there? What are you dealing with?
It's well, basically that's what I'm getting the geotech people to look at. This wasn't an area where we felt we had problems with the formation, so it's something above that, and what we don't know is whether it's something in the formation which we weren't aware of, or it's something in terms of the wall being deficient in some way, construction. I'll hopefully know all that by the end of today.
When that retaining wall failed, did it pose any risk to the track or the trains running on them?
No, it's failure. There's failure and there's failure. It's not as if it sort of catastrophically failed and things went everywhere. As I said, it was noticed not because the track was off skew, but because one of the traction poles was slightly askew, and so no, there was no immediate risk. To just reduce the speed to ensure it, keep the safety levels there.
When was the line last inspected?
Oh, we have routine inspections on a weekly basis, and track is done every 2 to 3 days. So there's a series of overlapping inspections. So this might have been for a day at the most. The risks are basically that the track, well, the ground keeps on slumping, and that starts to actually make the tracks either spread or sink on one side. To the extent that might happen with the thing we've got, that would be a pretty slow burn. So it's it's an abundance of caution, and our ability to actually get in and figure out what the problem is means we actually have to stand on some of those tracks, the ones that are potentially affected, and dig a hole to figure out what's happening down there. So we can't do that with trains running.
How long will this take to investigate?
I don't know. I hope to know that I hope to have a much better answer by the close of play today as to both investigation and, more particularly, what's the fix.
This comes after Kiwi Rail's recently said that there is massive work needed on the tracks in Auckland, and that's going to cause long periods of interruption. Yeah. How have you got this far behind?
A lot of the work that we're doing with this major closure is stuff that you wouldn't do unless there was a big change coming to the nature of the services. So we are doing work in that major close down, which relates to being ready for the City Rail Link. And once City Rail Link is open, we can't have happening the type of incident that happened yesterday, because you've put the money in there, you've got to have confidence in it.
And that was Kiwi Rail's David Gordon.